Hi folks, I'm Mike and I hope you're well. Welcome to Fix My Mix, the show where we listen to mixes from the community and try and give people some helpful critique about how they could improve their mixes before they release them. And I do suggest that if they do release their mixes to the world, that they use the sponsor for the show, who are DistroKid. You can see them there, and if you follow the link in the description down below, you will get a discount when you sign up. I'll get a little kickback, and it won't be at any extra cost to you, so everyone's a winner. Welcome to people in the live chat. Always lovely to see you here. Of course, we have the wonderful Mimo Japan, who is a legend in the community. Also, we have Doug Kidder there in the comments. Nice to see Order 29 in there as well. Lovely to see some regulars in here. Of course, Mark, I've got to get it right, haven't I, Mark? First of all, Mark Fahey, a good old Irish name. Nice that I'm not calling you Paul for a change, isn't it, Mark? Anyway, there's a story behind that. We'll watch a previous episode to find out. Nice to see Danny Gable in here as usual, and also Darren Jones as well from Kansas. Love to see wherever you are in the world, and also a huge thank you to the people who have sent some music in so that we can critique it on today's show, which we will be doing very soon. It's a brave thing to do, to have a mix which isn't quite finished played in public and then have three people tear it apart. And talking about tearing things apart, I guess I should introduce you to our first guest or today, who's going to be critiquing the mix, and he loves to tear things apart. Actually, his name is Dan, the Lonely Rocker.
The Lonely Rocker it is.
Hey,
Let
Dan.
me just say, I had my first barbecue of the season, and I just had some red meat, so I'm ready to go.
Oh, you're ready. That's nice. It's nice to see you've rushed in to join us.
Mm-hmm. I was actually going to wear a different shirt today, and I said I had a barbecue. I got ketchup all over it, so I had to change it the last minute.
You've for people who don't know, Dan he's not really a lonely rocker. He's got lots of lovely people in his life, so he's a rocker who is kind of soloing what he does, but he's not lonely as a person, are you, Dan? No.
I wish I was sometimes, but no.
I knew you were going to say that, man. I knew you were going to say that.
You always want what you don't have, right?
Hi,
right?
Mrs. Dan, by the way, if you're watching the show. Does your wife watch the show, Jenny?
Not really, no. She's playing linebacker. She's blocking the basement entrance so the kids don't come and ruin our live stream.
I don't know if they'd ruin it. I think that would be a ball if they came in on the live stream.
Oh, trust me, they'd find a way to ruin it. Yeah.
Well, okay. But yeah, if people watching, if they're not familiar with you, there's a link to your YouTube channel down in the description. You've made a really interesting video this week, and it's about sort of the different models that plug-in companies use, whether it be purchasing, subscription, some hybrid models in there. Some people that have their own models. Check out the link in the description down below, folks, and watch that video. It's a fascinating watch. Now, I was just about to introduce my other guest, but I see he's just disappeared from the stream. I suspect internet problems. Last week, I don't know if you were watching, Dan, I had the wonderful Pete Johns on the show, who came in, of course, swearing his head off. Just he's a disgrace. He's so nice when he's on his own channel. He couldn't be nicer, right? As soon as he gets on my channel, he starts being lewd. He starts wiggling his boobs around. He starts swearing. Anyway, my internet went down last week, and he was left to deal with the show all by himself. So just so you know, Dan, if my internet goes down, the show doesn't stop. If you're on the show, it keeps going for infinity.
So don't make so many unsightly adjustments. People might actually see me.
Exactly. So I thought it would be fun just to have you prepared. I'm going to pretend my internet's gone down now.
Whoa, look at that. So, It's my show now. We can talk about whatever we want. This is all gonna be rock and roll. We want you to submit your music, but if I don't like it, it's not gonna get on the show. And if I keep talking like that, Mike's gonna get back here super quick. So everyone...
Oh, you found my weak point.
There you go. Cheers.
Now, so Ricky's going to join us later, but as we know, or people may not know if they're watching for the first time, we do have 3 songs which we're going to take a listen to the mix, give our initial impressions, and hopefully that will help people out who sent their music in. But also, I think it can be very helpful to people who are listening to the show and giving their critique as well, because it gives us all a chance to kind of exercise our ears, really, to listen to something fairly objectively and kind of think about what's going on. So hopefully, just by watching this show, it's just going to give you some good listening practice as well, and weigh up what you think you're hearing, what could be improved. So if you are in the live chat, do make sure that you take part when we listen to these pieces of music. It's always really interesting, I think, to watch that live chat and think, are these people hearing the same thing that I'm hearing? I think it's just a fascinating thing. So do take part. And if you're watching on the replay, do take part as well. Now, if you want to send your music in, folks, then do make sure that you follow the instructions in the description down below. Basically, send an email to me. There's some specifics that I asked for. And you've got a really good chance of having a free assessment of your mix. I've managed to waffle for long enough for Mr. Ricky T. Brown to get his internet connection or whatever it was back, and here he is now. G'day, Ricky. How you going? You're looking you're looking a little pixelated, but look. First of all, Ricky, huge thank you to you, because it's like 2 a.m. in the morning or something like that over there in the UK. What time is it actually?
It is. It's just gone. Actually, it's just gone 1 o'clock. 7 minutes past 1. So
wow, that's
it's
dedication.
Not too late.
Can I say? Could people probably imagine that you guys get paid an extraordinary amount of money for being on this show? Can I just let the audience know that these guys come on here on a volunteer basis to help you out, folks. So let's show some love in the comments for my guests, especially the ones who as old men are here at 1 a.m. in the morning.
Hey, speak for yourself.
Especially the ones that have functioning internet.
Looking at you though, Ricky, I must say I'm a little jealous of you for various reasons. But I noticed you put a photo on Facebook the other day with your sons. I think it was someone's birthday. Yeah. And your sons already look like very mature men. And there you were with them, looking like you could be their brother. You don't... Where's the bloody wrinkles, mate? Have you not had enough stress in your life? There's no wrinkles on that baby face. What's your secret? Do you use lots of moisturizer, or what's the deal there?
No, I don't. I think I'm blessed. It's my mother's genes. She stayed looking very young until even at the point of her demise.
Wow.
You would have taken at least 10 years off her. Yeah, so I'm just blessed.
Is there a head of grey hair under that hat, though?
There's no hair under that hat.
Oh, there you go. Well, it's always nice to have you guys here. And when I say nice, it's nice to have Ricky here, who is always, of course, very balanced in his views. Dan, okay,
he's a bastard.
He can be he can be a little rough at times, and it's nice to see someone breaking the stereotype of Canadians as well in this way, isn't it?
As I say, they're wearing my Rush T-shirt. Right?
So, gentlemen, enough chitter chatter. Let's get into the first track here, which is I will let. Let's be fair, actually. I'll let Dan read out this artist's name and song title. Something tricky for you here, Dan.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a tough one. Right here, Saunders. I don't know what the hell
was that. Was that a Northern Ireland accent or something?
I think I was having an aneurysm. I wasn't sure. Mr. Lee Saunders, welcome to the show until the end. I think that was the end for me.
Oh, thanks for that, Dan. Yes, Lee said in his email to me, he said, I've been tinkering about on guitars and writing songs for a while now, and I've learned how to use Cakewalk over the last year, mainly thanks to you. Thank you, Lee. And started recording some stuff. I wrote this song recently with all the troubles in Ukraine in mind. It's from the perspective of a man staying home to fight until the end, hence the name. I've used guitars, bass, Addictive to drums. That's got you off on a bad track there already, Lee. But with Roland kit, Addictive keys and the BBC Symphony for String. My goodness, that BBC orchestra from Spitfire Labs comes up time and time again on this show, doesn't it? What an amazing!
It's good.
It's good, and I haven't got the paid one, but the free one is just so good anyway. There's just so much to it.
Yeah, just that one on its own.
Yeah, very, very good. So anyway, Lee says, hope you enjoy it, and if you use it for the show, maybe you could give me a few pointers. Well, here we are. It is on the show, Lee, and we are going to give you a few pointers.
At least one pointer.
Careful what you wish for, I guess. And let's have a listen to this now. So, as I say, from Lee Saunders, Until the End.
Told me we'd be living in a better place, but how wrong you've been. And you told me we'd be living where the sun replaces greed, but it's only in your dreams. And we'll keep trying till the end. Now you're running for the borderline. You're running fast and for your lives. You've got your eye upon that valued prize of clear skies. But this is where I wanna die for you. I'm running for the last time. I'm not running with you. And we'll keep fighting till the end. And I thank you for the best days of my life, but who do they think they are? And I thank you for the best days of my life, but who do they think they are? To be asking us why we would stay here and die. Oh, look at you now. Oh, look at you now. Well, I told you we were living in a momentary shade, and the wheels would turn again. And I told you they'd come running back the moment they were free, and the birds won't sing in vain. light. You've got your eye upon that valued prize of clear skies, but this is where I wanna die for you. I'm running for the last time. I'm not running with you, you. And we'll keep fighting till the end. And I thank you for the best days of my life. But who do they think they are? And I thank you for the best days of my life. But who do they think they are? To be asking us why we would stay here and die. And who do they think they are? To be asking us why we would stay here and die.
Oh, I like that little outro there with just the acoustic guitar, but never mind what I think. Ricky, let's have some balance here. What do you think, buddy?
I think it's well. Let's deal with the positives first. I think the lead vocal was really well recorded and mixed. It was clear all the way through. There were no issues with I didn't quite hear, what he's saying at that point. It was good all the way through. To the other side of a coin, I felt that the overall mix, there was an imbalance there because I'm not sure whether it was my system that's doing it, but it sounded to me that seemed to be more coming from my left than the right kind of thing. So I know, especially when you're trying to layer up guitars kind of thing, and you will try and pan things either side to keep the interest going, but I felt there was a net plus to one side of a mix, which was a shame.
Somebody was mentioning in the comments along the way that they felt that one of the guitars was too much on one side. Interestingly, I think they were saying on the right side. It might have been
that might
29.
be it. That might be it. That might have unbalanced the overall the overall mix. The sound, it kind of reminded me of is very much very late 60s, early 70s kind of vibe going on. It was done really well. There was something almost Beatles-esque about it, and then it reminded me of other things as well. Only one other thing though, I think because of whenever you've got a repetitive motif going on in a track, you need to be careful not to overdo it a little bit too much. And it I think what would have broken it up nicely would have been a solo, a short one. It could have been an 8-bar thing, but it would just have given it the feeling of we are moving. You're moving through the song, and then you got to a new section and something new's happening.
I felt myself and Susie were having a listening session on Spotify last night, and that song by Snow Patrol, I think it's called Run or what have you, was playing, and I was reminded of my love for the 3-note guitar solo, or even the 1-note guitar solo. Right, I could hear that from this song. I felt, wow, there just could have been an anthem-like sort of going, and it might have worked quite well. Or
adding a
there
bit of
could have
drama
been
to it,
or there could have been a Rush style guitar solo, I guess. But anyway, Ricky, anything else to add? I interrupted you there.
No, that's all right. It's your show, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh well, in that case.
No, but other than those comments, yeah, I think it was a really good attempt at a finished product. It's just a couple of things in there that if he could tidy that up, as far as his vocals concerned, I love that was very listenable, and lyrically, it had something important to say. So yeah, I'm kind of done with that, man. It's a good track.
Cool.
Just tidy up those bits.
And so now for the other side of the coin.
The other side of the coin. Ready for my hammer and nails? All right, here it goes. No, I like the track a lot, actually. I really did. It's funny, something that Ricky said about that balance. I didn't really notice an imbalance necessarily in left to right, and specifically talking about the guitars. Being a guitar player myself, now I like big guitar sound, so I will double track, I'll quadruple track, I'll spread them left and right, and I'll balance them to make them big. I didn't feel this track needed that, because there was guitar in one ear, there was strings in the other ear. It felt like an ensemble to me, like it felt right, and that was actually something that I noticed that I kind of liked. I like the songwriting. I agree on the vocals. What I was kind of feeling, and I'm going to say this because I don't want to sound like, oh, I'm using my incredible ears to zone in on frequencies that need work, and then I'm completely wrong. It's at this stage for me. I feel like we're in the last in the last leg of this mix, where I think all the parts are there. I think the songwriting is wonderful. The vocals are great. There's something perhaps mid-rangey, feeling a little bit cold to me. Could use a little bit, and I always say, like, it's something I always do at the latter stage of my mix, where I just kind of comb through it just to bring out a little more air on top, clean out some of the muddiness in the mid-range, because it felt a little bit cold, almost harsher to me, sort of in the middle somewhere. And again, we've talked about this in these shows, people who are creating music that has very a 60s, late 60s, early 70s kind of vibe, and it kind of feels like that. So is it possible that was the sound he was trying to achieve? So I don't want to criticize that, but I feel in this day and age, I'd like to feel some warmth on the bottom end a little bit more. I want to feel it a little bit bigger, because it's so dynamic. Like, I can just imagine if this thing, just like that big chorus, like short of a guitar solo, which may or may not need, but if it suddenly opens up and it feels huge, because everything is there. You got your strings, you got your guitars, you got big vocals. And even the repetitive chorus at the end, it kind of works in this kind of song, right? Think about the Beatles. They, na 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 for like about 45 minutes, and they're still going, right? If it's big and dynamic, your audience will accept that. So I kind of felt like somewhere in the middle could use a little bit of combing, maybe clean out, get a little bit of mud out of there, maybe bring some warmth. It'll bring some warmth back to the mix, because it felt a little harsh, and maybe fatten up the bottom end just a little bit, and just kind of, like I said, comb through and see where you can start to find redundant frequencies or things that are overlapping a bit too much, just and maybe a little bit of air on top. I think it would just open everything up, and that's kind of what I heard through this internet stream. And
yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of largely with you guys. First of all, look, when you release a song, there's no context to the listener of how long you've been doing it for, or what equipment you had available to you, what have you. So your song could be played alongside a very commercial song on Spotify, and so we can't make excuses, because to the end listener it doesn't matter. But on a show like this, we can add some context. So given that Lee has indicated that he's only been recording for about 1 year, then I think this is really really good result overall. I think it always helps when there's a song in there, which is a reasonably well written song, which I think this is. And then I just think that the overall balance, like Lee, you're in the ballpark, mate. You're on your way there. You've obviously got some decent natural skill available to you in terms of judging balance. That said, I think that there was a little bit of an imbalance in terms of stereo, so always worth checking that on your metering as well when you're mixing your song. And also be aware that even though I don't know how to describe this well, whether you guys come across this, but even though the left side and the right side may look balanced, if there's, say, a bass heavy or low end heavy frequency more on one side, it'll sound louder, even though the meters might be looking similar. So just be a little bit aware of things like that. But now what I was hearing was a little bit different to other people. So I thought overall good. But I felt that perhaps, I don't know, I don't think there's been mastering done on this as such, but it almost seemed like there was an overall push for what we might call air. So sometimes you'll add a bit of air frequencies. There's very high frequencies, I think of those being up, certainly above 5, but maybe more in the 6 to 10K range, where you add that little bit of breathiness to everything. It can show up on cymbals and on vocals and things like that. There was too much of that for me in this, almost to the point of a little bit of irritation. And I think I can trust these headphones. I use these all the time, and things like that will stand out. So just have a look at that, Lee, I reckon. And also, I agree with Dan, there was a lack of low end in this, which was a bit of a shame, really, because I think that was a bigger issue, even more so. So there's an overall imbalance, in frequency imbalance, rather than a level imbalance for me on this song. So I hope that helps, Lee. There was I think people were hearing different things on this, to be honest with you. I think some of the things I saw in the comments, I was like, I'm not sure. And each of us three have had some different ideas, so I don't think there's anything which is so certain in there, but hopefully food for thought, Lee, at least. And one of the things that you may need to do once you do release this song is get it on the right playlist. Maybe this would have a 60s playlist, or maybe a Britpop playlist, or something like that. Dan's already giggling. He knows where I'm going with this, don't you, Dan?
If I was on the right,
submit your music to the DistroKid Spotlight feature. It gets entered into this competition where it gets played alongside other songs, and people will vote for which of the two they see on the screen is their favourite. Now, the better you do in this process, the more likely you are to appear in one of DistroKid's playlists on Spotify, and that means your music's got a much better chance of being heard. So you simply go ahead and select one of your songs, and then you've just got to select a 29-second clip, the best part of the song. It would be the best way to go with this, and you've got this nice sort of interactive feature here to do that. You simply then select the Connect with Spotify button, and you're away. Sorry, I cut you off there, Dan, with a little bit of sponsorship there. Talking about sponsorship and a little bit of promotion, I'm going to do a little bit of promotion myself now for a future episode on Creative Source, which hasn't been made yet, and I will be making it next week. Not too long ago, I think about 3 or 4 weeks ago, in one of my sort of free plugins videos, I covered a free library called Micah's Choir. It works on Spitfire Labs, as well as, what's that other thing called? Piano Book, or I can't remember the name. It doesn't matter. But a great library. And I was interested, who's behind this, who's Micah, the vocalist in there, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, they reached out to me, Micah and his friend Kodara, or his partner in crime Kodara, have not only released this new library, but also are working on some others as well. Now they, as it turns out, belong to a group called Sons of Serendip. Who Piano Book, thank you, ordered 29 for correcting me on that, or getting me on the right track. Piano Book, so the Sons of Serendip are a group from the Boston area in the US. I found them fascinating, and I've already had a chat with them. I filmed the interview next week, and it'll be a future episode. But what an interesting lineup they have, because they have a vocalist who I think occasionally plays the cajon, not a real instrument, but you can hit it, and also a pianist. Nothing unusual so far. Vocalist, pianist. Then there is a cello player. I love cello. If I can get cello into a song, I'll put cello in a song. So there we have. And then the fourth part of that lineup is harp. So we have vocals, piano, cello, and harp. Not playing classical music or anything like that, but playing contemporary music, some originals. They do some covers as well, where they come up with some interesting versions of songs. And I'm interviewing those guys during the week. I'm just going to quickly play a part of one of their songs. I'm not going to play the whole song, but just give you an idea, because as I was chatting with them, I want to let you know, folks, that I think they produce a very, very professional product, but they do it all themselves. They don't go into studios and do it. They all take part in recording the music. And not only that, but they make their own videos. I was talking with them about this particular video I'm about to play, and I said, "Who made this video? It's great." And of course, the pianist, Cordaro, said to me, "Oh, that was me. I made that video." And I was like, "Oh my God, it's one of those people." And then looking at some of their other videos, Micah, the singer, also plays piano very, very well. The pianist also plays he also plays cello, but he plays violin a bit. He taught himself to play cello in like 20 days or something. He did a challenge with himself, and he documented it on YouTube. So extraordinarily talented people. Let's just have a little taste. And look out for the video, which will be coming in a few weeks' time. If you would like me to ask them some questions, folks, then let me know in the comments down below, or in the chat here. Probably in the comments is going to be better, or on the Facebook group where I've made a post about this.
You saw too much. Is that what it was? Your ink on my skin, your fingerprints. I could cover it up, but I don't even want to. Door open for you.
I just wanted to play that long enough so we got to see the harp player, because there's just not enough harp, is there, around? So, yeah, look, that's a bit inspiring, isn't it, for what is possible just under your own steam without a big production company or anything like that. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to, I've already spoken with these guys at length, but I'm looking forward to conducting the interview with them and showing some of their music to the world. But more interestingly, I want to hear about the other libraries that they're going to be releasing as well, which will be fascinating. Right. I don't need to convince you two guys about what can be done in a home studio, because you do it. But let's move on to your thoughts on our second song. Let's have this name read out by, I think we'll go Dan again. Dan, you can read this one out. We'll leave the last one for Ricky.
Yeah, Stitch Up on the Way. Yeah.
Dan.
Distant towers, every once in a dream.
No, you read that out so nicely, didn't you? It was like a bedtime story.
I have a sensitive side, you know. I'm like a mushy center wrapped in sandpaper. That's kind of thing, right?
All right, so this was sent in by Tom McCaffrey. Thanks, Tom, for sending this in. He says, I'm a member of a band named Distant Towers. We're a three-piece studio-only band that was established in 2008. Our body of works includes 7 independently released CDs and an 8th forthcoming in the fall of 2022, so that won't be too long. Our overreaching goal has always been to write, record, produce for our own enjoyment in regards to style, format, or length of song. That unbridled freedom has made for some interesting composition and loads of fun in our creative process. We would be honoured if Dan and Ricky, they didn't say that. I've put that in. We would be honoured if you would review and make any suggestions to the attached track "Once in a Dream," which was the title track of our 7th CD. So let me just pull it up, and I didn't actually cue it up, which was a bit unprofessional from my point of view. So this is going to be released. It hasn't been released yet. So this is our chance to make a difference to the world, folks in the chat and my esteemed guests here. So let's have a listen to this one. Interesting. Dan, have you ever had a go at that kind of guitar playing?
A slide guitar?
Yeah.
I've noodled a little bit with slide. I'm not comfortable. Like I even wrote a couple of songs with slide guitar,
Yeah.
and it was a couple of years ago. I went down south visit my family. I bought a slide and I bought an acoustic guitar while I was down there, and I spent my holidays just noodling on it. And then I bought like a resonator guitar, which I have in the back here, and I haven't, unfortunately. I was getting there. It was writing some songs, and then I just kind of moved off onto something else. So, but I'd love to get back into it because I like it. It's a very, very cool form of guitar playing.
I don't want to preempt your opinion here, but that was a bit of a star of the show in this song, wasn't it? That slide stuff going on there. Do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, it was a bit of a.
It was a bit of the star of the show in that song. It was a bit of a highlight.
Well, it was on top of the show.
It was driving it. All right, now we've got an opinion going there. All right, Dan, what do you mean by that?
Okay, well, first of all, I love the track. I mean, it's got such like a dirty groove to it, and it's like, someone said they crack open a beer. Like, I love the vibe to this song. I'd love to hear more stuff like this for sure. I do think the mix needs some work. I think, I mean, the guitars, I mean, that's my wheelhouse, right? And I think I like prominent guitars, but there's a trick to making guitars sound prominent, but without sucking up all of the air of the mix, right?
Right.
Because they were really fighting the vocals for sure. The vocals were kind of sitting back, which sometimes is a stylistic thing, right?
Yep.
But I think the guitars can be made very prominent in this mix by placing them right, by being very careful that this is an EQ job. Make sure that you're not eating the vocal space, dipping things out, just figuring where those guitars should be, and make sure they're not fighting, because those vocals are way back there. The guitars are way up there, and the vocals are great. Like, I think there's so much there. So I definitely think it definitely is working how to place, but I would actually go a little below that before I'd come back to the guitars, because the song, I think, could really use a mix. It deserves a mix because the song's great. It's really great. Playing's great. I'd like the whole vibe of the track. Again, I hear like that sort of lower mid range, even bottom end is a tricky place to mix. It almost sounds like I'm not hearing what they were hearing, and vice versa. It just seems like, there's a lot of mud in there. The bass would be poking its head up for like, hey, here's a little fill, here I am, and then it would it would come back down again. Roll off your guitars, 100 or 90. It doesn't need to be below there. Your bass, get it sort of in between. Roll that off around 50 and leave room for your kick drum down around 50, right? Like, get everything kind of in its place.
Yep.
But overall, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff, but it's a great track and it deserves it. So I would really like them to see it, could clean up that mix, get some space. And I don't know where that visual came from. That was kind of fun to watch too. But
that was all my work, mate. Yeah.
There you go.
No, I use the site to do that. Okay, cool.
I was wondering. Where'd they get these images from?
Yeah, were you feeling that, Rick?
Yeah, man. I was feeling that proper. Yeah, I was thinking, where do I leave that bottle of Southern Comfort? I'm sure I have in there somewhere. Yeah, it's. I'll tell you something. I mean, at the point where you think, "Oh, is this starting to get a bit, repetitive?" Yeah, because the riff, the slide guitar riff was really infectious.
Yeah, it was.
But you got to the point where is it right? Is this all there is? And then what does he do? He brings something new, and I just love the way that it developed. So you could argue that, say that the first 2/3 of the song was like, yeah, you're right in that groove, and then they introduced something different. I think it was the song. I'll buy that because it takes you somewhere when you listen to that.
Right.
So real credit to the guys on that score. As far as the mix goes. Yeah, echoing some of Dan's comments about the vocal not occupying the right space, because as infectious as that slide riff was, you felt that where the vocals were, they're not in there all the time. So when they are there, they need to be a little bit further forward.
Mm,
And I agree with Dan. It's I think it's a case of EQing
mm,
and possibly a little bit more level. Because the track itself, the music did overwhelm the vocal a little bit, kind of thing, which was a
mm,
shame because it's a brilliantly crafted song.
mm, mm,
I really enjoyed listening to that.
mm.
So, did you see my head going
I
about
did. I
two
saw it.
birds?
I
I
saw
said,
that
all
going on.
right, okay, I'm
Yeah.
riding this. I'm riding
It
this.
was
Yeah.
almost like the whole song was based, for me, and I mean this in a good way, was based on the sort of riff that it started out with, and it drove
Yeah.
the whole song all the way through. I think it just,
Mm.
without that, it's either a completely different song or not a song at all, really. Kiana in the comments was saying something about the presence of the vocals. So I've got to say, I agree with you guys overall with this track. I think it was almost there with the balance. I've got to say, I was probably hearing different things there. Someone said that they felt there was, I think it was Order 29 who was saying they think there was too much mids. I didn't think there was enough mids. I thought it was sort of lacking in that presence. There was a lot of low end.
Low mids, yeah.
Could have done a little bit with that, the highs, but overall, I just got this weird feeling when I was listening to it. Like objectively, when I'm listening to it, things are pretty much in balance, but there's something about the overall sound which is not. It could be a little more aggressive in some ways. It felt a little soft overall. I hope that makes sense. It's this sort of language we use sometimes when we're talking about mixes. It's a bit, not very helpful at times, but I'll try and be more specific about some things. So I did feel that the vocals were problematic for me. So speaking to the vocalist, I don't know whether it was Tom who's the vocalist. There was a lot of effects on the vocals. Now, the question is then, is that a stylistic choice or why did that occur? So, Tom, if you put all those effects on because I want you to be realistic with yourself. Are all those effects there because you're not feeling confident about your vocal abilities? So you swamp them in loads and loads of effects. If that's the case, then I think you should be confident in your vocal abilities because I thought it sounded like a good vocal. So if you're overcompensating and only you can know that, then I don't think you need to. You should have some confidence in your vocal. If that's not the case, if I've got that wrong and it's a stylistic choice, which for some reason, I don't know whether it was because of this whole style of the song, was reminding me of ZZ Top here and there. But I would suggest this, that those vocals that you've got there with all of the processing going on, lots of left and right stuff, take your vocal as it was, the dry vocal, put that on a channel all by itself and put it smack bang in the middle and then just blend that in with what you've already got. And I think you might find more presence with the vocals. It was just missing from the center of the mix. And frequency wise, I think as vocalists, we love the smiley face EQ, right? We like to have a little bit of warmth and a little bit of crispiness, but it doesn't work in a mix. You've got to be able to get through with some of the mid tones. So I personally, that's what I think. Take it or leave it, but I think that's where I would go with that. The rest of it, I agree with Dan that guitar was really awesome, but just sort of overwhelmed the mix and definitely was stealing from the vocal a little bit here and there as well. So that's maybe the other part of that equation also. But overall, I'd love this is their 7th CD. Good on you guys. I mean, just keep making music, and as you say, keep making the kind of music that you want to make, and the freedom of being able to produce your own music does that. You don't have to answer to anyone else. You can just make it for you and your fans. And if you do release this, what kind of a playlist do you think this would go on, Dan?
It's interesting. I mean, it's kind of a Southern rock song for sure. I mean, you said I don't hear ZZ Top. I hear more, like that. This is not Texas blues. This is more like the more dirty South kind of stuff.
Yep.
But you know what? It's a good song. It should go on a playlist, and it'll blend in with kind of in between a few genres, you know, like, you know, a little rocky, a little more vocal oriented stuff. It's not it's got a vibe to it. I think
maybe just get it on the wheel of playlist at DistroKid and see what happens. One of the ways to actually get your music heard on Spotify is to get onto a playlist. Now, DistroKid offers a really fun way to get onto one of their playlists with their Wheel of Playlist feature. Simply head over to your DistroKid account, go to the top right where it says Goodies, then go down to Wheel of Playlist, and then you start off simply by selecting a song, something you've already released, and then click on Connect with Spotify. Now, obviously, the further up a playlist you get, the more likely people are to actually hear your music and enjoy it. So what DistroKid do here with this feature is they give you 3 chances to spin a wheel, a kind of a wheel of fortune type of thing going on here. Now, the best result of those 3 spins determines your number in the playlist. And as I say, the higher up you are, the better. So on this occasion, I achieved 1,088. You can try every day if you like. So maybe that's something you'd like to do to actually get your music in a playlist on Spotify. Now, if I had one criticism for the 3 songs on this show this week, it would not be anything to do with the mix. It would be to do with the fact that none of the names were really that difficult to pronounce, which disappoints me whenever Ricky's on the show, because I love to put him through it. And this is really the most difficult thing. It's not difficult at all. So anyway, but I'll leave the last one for Ricky to read out.
All right, here we go.
No, it's not. It's nothing. It's nothing. I'm sure you can deal with a double vowel.
Oh,
I wouldn't even know how to say that. Good luck to you, mate.
right. The next song is by Kalia, Girl in the Tower.
It probably is right. Kalia. I just want to say Kayla for some reason, but that would be wrong, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Oh. It's 2 A's, so you'd say Kalia.
Is that right? Is that the rule? Is it if it's got 2 A's, it's pronounced as R?
It's my rule.
I'd start stuttering if I read that name. I've never seen 2 A's beside each other.
So anyway, the person who sent this in is actually a guy called Stephen Basu, but he goes under the name of Kalia on places like Spotify.
Not 3 A's, 2.
Hey, this is the way you say it with an Australian accent. Kalia. Right.
Oh, dear.
So he goes under this sort of stage name, if you like, on Spotify, Deezer, YouTube, etc. He says, I'd like to submit a song, Girl in the Tower, to be critiqued. I feel it's at the pre-master stage. Well, we'll be the judges of that, but I could be wrong. As an Aussie, you'll be chuffed to know that it's a song I set out to write in the style of Icehouse, one of my all-time favourite bands. He's actually a Brit living in Spain. Well, he's a fortunate Brit. So anyway, moving on, before I upset anyone, let's have a listen to this song, Girl in the Tower from Kalia.
Alone and afraid, lost in the dark, sinking into the black. Dark closing in fear for my life. I'm drowning down in the deep. Life sends a path, it shows me a way. It's the girl in the tower with the sun in her hair. Ooh, the sun in her hair. She's breaking down lust, she's locked in a box, weight on my chest. Why, oh why can't I fight? Swallowed by fears, no sign of hope. I think it's the end of my life. Light sends a path, it shows me a way. It's the girl in the town with the sun in her hair. Ooh, the sun in her hair. She's breaking down rocks, she's freeing my heart. The girl in the tower with the moon in her eyes. Ooh, the moon in her eyes. Light sends a fire, it shows me a way. It's the girl in the town with the sun in her hair. Ooh, the sun in her hair. She's breaking down rocks, she's freeing my heart. The girl in the town with the moon in her eyes. Ooh, the moon in her eyes. Light sends a path, it shows me a way. It's the girl in the town with the sun in her hair. Ooh, the sun in her hair. She's breaking down rocks, she's freeing my heart. The girl in the town with the moon in her eyes. Ooh, the moon in her eyes.
Do you know, back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, this will take you back a bit, guys. I was in a band and we would, I don't want to use the word touring. It doesn't quite count as a tour when you kind of live in the back of a transit van and go up and down the coast of the UK and play in little pubs. But you know the life. But we decided the acoustic drums were just too much hassle. They're too loud. And they take a lot of setting up, and you have to set them up with the sound guy and everything. So the drummer bought a Simmons drum kit. Do you remember Simmons? Are they still around?
Oh, yeah.
Simmons? Are they still around? Anyway,
Simmons, yeah.
with just about every drum fill in this song, I was transported back to the days in that band with those very, very panned drum fills, which had that particular sound to them. They went really from left to right. That's not a criticism, by the way, but I was thank you to Kylia for just, having me reminisce that sound. Dan, what did you think overall about this?
So let me tell you, I have
not
this. Oh,
There's Dan.
there. I think the last shot looked better, but I have this sort of little internal fantasy where I could take a trip in a time machine. And I can travel all the way back, probably would go to the 50s, in the early 60s, just to see, recording techniques evolving. And I would spend most of my time probably in the 70s. And then I would actually jump over the 80s because I'm not very interested, and really get into the 90s when tones really started to, So I have a hard time with sounds in the 80s, and not, I grew up in the 80s. That's when I was in high school. And there was a great divide. When I was in like the year before I went to high school, we were all into rock and stuff. And then suddenly our mates kind of split in half, where some of us stayed on the Rush and Zeppelin and all the stuff. And, we had this sort of shaggy hair. And then the other half, their hair suddenly went poof, came up to the front. And it was the great divide. And I'm very sensitive to those sounds because I appreciate how experimental the 80s were. But it was experimental because suddenly there was this new technology, which generally drives trends and things like that. But I think we can all agree that the early sounds of the 80s were very synthetic, not very polished or, pristine synthesizer sounds that got better and better. And is there still an audience for that now? Like because when I listen to this song, I'm like, well, okay, and I was looking at all the references and I was like, nah, it's not that. No, it doesn't sound like that. There's these 80s bands that I would never know.
I got to tell you, man, that my teenage kids love 80s songs. They adore them. When we have those, I don't know what that's called, something on the Wii console where they do this karaoke thing. They love, a bit of Rick Astley and stuff like that. That's what they get into. But anyway.
Now, I don't want this to sound overly critical because I didn't like that stuff, but I was listening to this. And it took me right back to the 80s of these bands that I didn't know what they were called. But it sounded like you mentioned Ice House. I've heard that name before, but I couldn't pick a song out of a lineup. So it took me there immediately. But personally, that was a time where I was like, I was fighting the music in the 80s. I was so on the other end of music in those days. I probably still.
This is a big, long disclaimer, isn't it? Before you,
but that's unfortunately.
I hate the 80s.
No. But there's a compliment in there.
Okay, get to it then.
That's what it's about.
The compliment was, which I just revealed it. I'm having a hard time because I always had a hard time with those tones just from the beginning. So I don't think I could be fairly critical of this mix because I hated those sounds in the 80s. But the song immediately got me feeling nostalgic because that music was all around me in my high school years, and it felt very reminiscent of that. So I think that's all I got to say about it. I want to be cautious not to say it needs a bit of that. I mean, overall the mix, again, much like the last couple of mixes, it felt a little bit muddy to me, and but I just found myself so distracted by the tones that I couldn't really,
It is difficult sometimes when there are genres of music which, for whatever reason, because we all belong to a kind of a culture, and we listen culturally. We don't just listen with our ears. It's hard for us to be that objective. And I applaud you, Dan, for disclosing your prejudice in a way. It's really, really important. No, seriously, because sometimes it can just be a barrier to really being able to listen objectively if a certain genre of music or something. It's just something you really don't dig, then it's going to be hard to give an in-depth critique. So, I think that's sort of valid.
Like those drum sounds, for example. I mean, I had drum machines. I was recording on 4-track recorders, and I used to use those sounds just because that's all I had. But I'm saying, I ain't selling this. This is just a placeholder. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's just how it sounds to me. But I just want to make it clear that I have a lot of good memories in the 80s. So a lot of this music was always around me. It's like Stranger Things, that series, that music in the front, very 80s. But,
away from the style of it, how did you feel about the songwriting? I mean, if I could ask you to sing back a part of the melody now, could you do that?
Well, I don't sing in public, but I can hear I can hear the vocals. So
right, okay, well, that's a good thing, isn't it?
It was prominent enough. Yeah,
there was some writing going on there.
Yeah, it was a little on the repetitive side. I mean, I think it could maybe use a little more dynamics, but again, it feels kind of like it belongs in that category, and that's sort of my compliment.
Okay, I've got to disagree with you there. Can I disagree with you?
Please do, because
I was about to say, I'm sorry, Ricky, because I usually like to leave my opinion till last. But I was going to say, of the 3 songs, this was the most dynamic song for me.
Wow.
There were passages where it had a big drop down, and then there was a big. Anyway, let's move on to Ricky, because he's making a lot of facial expressions. He's making a lot of facial expressions, and I want to see what's behind the facial expressions of this terribly good-looking man.
Well, contrary to what Dan said, I'm glad that my formative years were in the 80s, because that's where I learned my shit, man. The diversity of ideas in the 80s, whether you're talking about synth stroke rock kind of thing, it really reminded me, actually. I mean, I'm not familiar with the Aussie band you mentioned. What's their name?
Ice House.
Ice House, yeah,
Mm,
I'm not familiar with them, but what it did remind me of was Simple Minds.
mm,
Actually,
mm,
I think
mm.
somebody mentioned it in the comments. Yeah, definitely. Only that Simple Minds used real drums rather than electronic. I mean, I must admit, some of the drum rolls, yeah, they're a little bit corny. Yeah, it's like right. I think it was something like you get with a Roland TR 606 kind of thing, and he said, right, you'd have a fill. Yeah, press the fill now. Yeah. And it would drop in. But I really enjoyed that. And yes, it did definitely take you back to the 80s. But I'm much more nostalgic about the 80s than Dan is. Yeah, I'm picking on you, mate. Yeah.
I think
Listen,
we're going back to the wars of the 80s because Dan touched upon it. There was the synth guys. Hang on, let me get my slide. There was the synth guys, and then there was the guitar guys. And do you remember, you like in music magazines and things at the time, it would say, "This is the death of the guitar. This is
yeah.
the end of the guitar. You won't hear it again." And
That's
people
not
like
real music.
Dan and me, we got upset when they said things like that, and we were like, "What do you mean it's the death of the guitar? The guitar will live forever." And yeah, but this is what we've got. So on my left we have one of the synth guys, and on my right we have one of the.
Well,
How did it
yeah, I
work out,
guess.
guys? After all of that talk in the 80s about synth was going to kill the guitar hero, the guitar hero's dead, aren't they, Dan?
I there's just a lot more of them, and they're not as recognized as widely as previous heroes. But they're
Come on,
there.
who's the great guitar hero of the last 10 years in mainstream music? Do you know
That's
who it
true.
really is? Do you know who
I
it
mean,
is?
I
Do you
know
know who's selling guitars?
who's really selling guitars now.
Taylor
Who-
Swift and Ed Sheeran. Those are the people who are selling
Oh,
guitars in guitar shops,
please,
right? No,
please.
seriously, but that's the truth of it. That's why the acoustic guitar has had a
Sheeran, oh
great
my
revolution.
God.
But
Yeah.
that's what they tell me in guitar stores. I know it's upsetting.
Well, I guess I don't go to those guitar stores. I don't know. I live in a different era. I don't know. Listen, every era has its new thing that's going to kill the old thing. I mean, music evolves, and that is a beautiful thing.
Mm.
I know I have conversations about my fear about where rock music is today, and I agree it's hard to be original in rock music. It was one of the reasons why rock is so challenged. I mean, being a great rock musician is hard. It's hard. It's hard to be original and good and write great songs and not sound like you'd be a derivative of something else. It's very, very, very difficult. And I think that's why rock is not as prominent as it used to be. It's a lot easier to create other genres, not be good at it. To be great at anything, I talk about craft. I don't care if it's dance music, digital music, if it's synthesizer music. I mean that sincerely. I know we joke about my feelings about it, but to be great, you got to be good at what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
They're laughing at me now.
I know.
My cough, but anyways,
Back to Ricky. I'm just going to turn him off, Ricky. I'm going to turn him off. I'm going to make him small down here. Back to Ricky, who only got barely into his commentary before we interrupted
Dad
it.
makes me die. Literally, he falls for it every week. Every
I
time
know.
he falls for it. No. Listen,
It's a thing. I'm okay with it. I'm very secure. I'm very secure in my smallness. I'm very secure.
I've muted him now, Ricky. Let's get on with the show.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, Dan. Look, respect you, man. I mean, look, you have your views, and
Oh, there was
you
almost
have
a
your
rhyme in there.
views.
Damn, Dan, respect you, man. Go on.
However, my approach to music is one where, listen, man, there's space in the universe for everything, you know. So, there's the traditional rock way of doing things, um, and it's good if you can master your instrument. Yeah, definitely. But I don't know. I think the technology now has allowed more people to express themselves musically, and not necessarily, through the established means that used to be prominent. The technology means that it's more about ideas rather than your
Musicianship.
Yeah, your musicianship. Yeah.
Mm.
Technology helps you with that. Now, of course, if you have no musicianship, you're gonna have problems. But I think for those who want to express themselves and may not have the traditional skills kind of thing, the technology is a good thing. It means
Mm.
people can express themselves. So, I take a more ambivalent attitude towards it. Yes, I can play. I play keys is my main instrument. I dabble with bass, and I'm just recently trying to get into some guitar.
I
Dan,
know you bought a
yeah,
guitar, haven't you? Like
yeah.
that's the first
Actually,
step.
it's
I'm rubbing
funny
off.
that
My views are rubbing off on you. Don't worry, it's happening.
yeah, it's funny.
Buying a guitar, that's like buying a membership to the gym, isn't it? You've actually now got to get on and just.
Well, no, I'm going to go beyond that. Actually, it's not just to have one. It's to learn some technique as well. So
Cool.
I'm actually getting some tuition for that. So
Oh.
Going through that process, I'm just underlining that you can't exclude. You shouldn't exclude anything. Really, is what I'm saying. I mean, yes, if you want to play guitar well, get some tuition, which is what I'm doing. And Mike, yeah, you were mentioning about which guitars are selling and
Oh yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And yeah, that sounds like a crying shame. But what did I do though?
I've got to
I'm
say,
more credible.
I'm pulling that out of my hat from some statistics which were shown in an article, probably going back 5 or 6 years now. But they were saying that I don't know whether it had come from Guitar Center or what have you, but essentially that the people that used to contribute to guitar sales were people like Slash or Eddie Van Halen or
Steve Vai, yeah.
Steve Vai or Brian May or any of the amazing array of lead guitarists that we had. But I've mentioned this on the show many times. Mainstream, if you take any top 10 at the moment, there is no lead guitar solo in the songs. There's no solo in the songs. There's not even a freaking drum or saxophone songs, and we miss those. But no, there's always used to be a guitar break, back in the 70s and even in the 80s. And of course, when there was a bit of a guitar revival with 90s alternative music and Britpop and that kind of thing, we had guitar solos again.
But actually, not as much in the 90s. I'd challenge you on that one.
Not as much, for sure. Yeah. Not as much. Not those big guitar heroes. But yeah, once we got into the noughties, they're gone. So I know there are fantastic guitar players out there, lead guitarists. I mean, just amazing. But there just isn't the mainstream influence. Whereas there's quite a lot of 14, 15-year-old boys, who want to pick up an acoustic guitar and learn how to play a song. I think it's fine. Music always goes through trends anyway, doesn't it? At different times. I just want to quickly get back to the actual song.
There was a song.
There was a song. First of all, I'm a little, although I grew up in the 80s, I'm a little like Dan. I was in the, at the time, I was like, Spandau Ballet, Duran Duran.
Love those guys. Love them.
I didn't like it at the time. I enjoy it now. It's more of a nostalgia thing when I listen to it, and I really appreciate what great songwriting was in some of that music. And actually, funnily enough, when you look at some of the documentaries about these guys, despite the electronicness of the music, a lot of them are written on acoustic guitars. A lot of those guys were still very good musicians at the time, but they chose to use the synthesizers around at the time to make their music, and that's how that music got its style. But essentially, there's great songs underneath them, I would say. But I'm actually going to do something a little bit unusual and play the beginning of this song again, because it just, I think you're going to be able to hear it, what I'm going to talk about. The first thing I'm going to talk about is this. I'll try again. Press the button twice, Mike. So So to Stephen, who sent that in, I'm going to start off by saying tambourine. The worst thing for me about this whole song was the tambourine at the beginning there. It was everything that I don't like about programmed things. It was, first of all, very, very quantized, completely quantized, but also the same velocity. You've got to be careful. So I know that with styles of music, this can change, but I do think that it's not about style. It's the measurement is how irritating is something, regardless of style, and I just felt the mechanical nature of that tambourine was just, I could have either got rid of it completely or have some different velocities in there. Maybe not have it quite so quantized. Probably the velocities are the more important aspect of that for me. Maybe a different tambourine library which has some variations in the sound with each hit. But overall, although it's a stylistic thing, I also think that overall it was too quantized, this piece of music. I sound very negative. I'm not actually as negative as I sound about this song. I think it's actually a good song, well written, and obviously, as Stephen has said, he's a big fan of this Australian band, Icehouse. His influence has shown through, I think, clearly there. He's a fan of 80s music, and he's made a piece of music that sounds like 80s music, and fair play to him. If that's what you love, that's what you should do every single time. And you've remained true to that for sure. But it was a good song. I thought that was good. It was just a overall well-written song, apart from my prejudice, which is similar to Dan, about the style of the song. All of that said, thank you so much for sending it in. If you would like to send in one of your mixes for my guest to tear apart, then please do so by following the instructions down below in the description. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. I just think this whole thing that you guys have a difference. By the way, folks, just so you know, all three of us are really great friends off of this
Believe
show.
it or not.
We're really good friends, despite the fact that we're, I can't decide if I'm English or Australian, white guy, a black dude, and a Jewish guy. We all get along,
all subjects of the Queen, Her Majesty. Yes,
we are true.
The Canadian side of me, not the Jewish side of me.
We all come from different musical backgrounds. We all love different things. We disagree passionately on things we disagree with, and still manage to remain great friends through it all, which I think is very, very important. But yeah, I love hearing your perspectives, especially Dan's, because I disagree with it so much, but I just love to hear his weird rationale for why he doesn't like things. As an outro to the show, Dan, we're going to pretend that I've lost my internet connection, that Ricky's lost his, and that you're left to finish the show all by yourself. So we may be, Ricky would be, say, mid-sentence. Ricky, say something. Yeah, he's talking away, Ricky. And then, oh, whoops, he's lost his internet connection. I go, oh, what a shame. Ricky's lost his.
He's going to cut me off at some point, but that's fine. But you know what? I'm confident with my opinions. Be good at what you do. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, whatsoever. Either that, he's going to let me sit here and fry for a long time and make sure that I run out of things to say. But I'm watching myself, so I'll know when he cuts me off. What do you guys think? Do you have any questions for me? I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you to everyone involved. Yes, thanks. That's all I got to say. I knew it. See, I knew it. He's just going to let me burn here and whatever. Well, I think I'll take you back to the beginning where it all started. How about that? Oh, I'm going to get even with Mike. I will get even with him one day, because just remember, revenge is best served cold. Just remember that. Remember that. So, everyone, Mark, you got to save me here. I do answer your emails, all right? What do you got to say? How about the Mix Club? Thanks, man. You enjoyed this? I enjoyed it too. Plugins suck. Yes, Doug. Plugins really do suck. Every one of them. And what else we got here? Rogue, Avalende. Dan, yes. What do you got to say? Sing. No, Mr. Mix Club, I'm not going to sing, because it's going to be worse than what I'm doing right now. I promise you that. Yes, thanks, everyone. I think it's time to cut. No? What do you think? I think I might start singing. Darren Jones, great show. Yes, thank you very much for joining us. It was great having you here. We rock. I'm the only one who rocks in this lineup. That's pretty clear. That's pretty clear. Play us a tune on the guitar. You know what? I should have been prepared for that. I got a few of them behind me, don't I? Kenora Music, we love your support. We love hearing from you every show. Guitar rules. Yes, Mr. Rogue. I'm doing well. I'm doing well.